Do you ever feel like your attacks just die out no matter how much possession you have? Your fullbacks are stuck, your middle field feels predictable, and your defense gets stretched way too easily. Well, maybe the problem isn't just your skill. Maybe it's your symmetry. This might sound weird at first, but in real football and in eFootball as well, the best teams don't mirror both sides of the pitch. They build balance through contrast. That's why in this video I want to show you a small but effective trick which will help you build a very balanced squad. It's about mixing playstyles and strengths and weaknesses of all your players to build a more fluid, unpredictable, and overall stronger team. The first and one of the most important ways you could include diversity or asymmetry into your lineup is by using different playstyles. Most of you already know this, but when using two CBs, many people advise not to use two destroyers, but rather to use the combo of a build-up CB and a destroyer CB. And this is the exact example of my philosophy. You end up using two completely different defenders. One of them is a more aggressive defender who goes for the ball, while the other is more passive and used to start attacks by delivering passes. I believe that this rule not only goes for CBs, but for your whole lineup. In my opinion, there should not be two players with the same playstyle in one lineup. By using the same playstyle on multiple players, you end up having two players who make the exact identical runs and the exact same spaces on the pitch. Let me give you a quick example. If you use two whole players at AMF, this could arguably work, but you end up missing on a lot of space on the pitch. If you use two AMF whole players, you end up having two aggressively dashing AMFs which run forward at any given opportunity. The biggest problem for me is people using two defensive fullbacks. If you do that, sure, your defense is very solid and you're committing way less of a risk. But you end up missing on a lot of attacks which could result from your possession. Instead of using two defensive fullbacks, you should rather use a combo of an offensive and defensive fullback. When using this combo, you obviously will have to adjust your team to fit this new style, which could, for example, mean on the side of the offensive fullback, you use a more defensive midfielder to cover for your offensive fullback. And on the side of the defensive fullback, you use a rather more attacking midfielder, like, for example, a whole player, since you know you can be sure that this defensive fullback stays back and covers for your midfielder. Moving on to an aspect that strongly correlates to what I have just mentioned about playstyles, you should most definitely balance the strengths and weaknesses of your players. Don't try to make every player do everything. Let them specialize and cover for each other. A great example of this could be using a striker duo. While one striker is more agile, fast, and better in dribbling, the other striker could specialize on heading, physical contact, and jumping. The exact same logic goes for a balanced midfield. You should use one midfielder who specializes in defending and is rather weak in attacking. You have one midfielder who has balanced stats in both attacking and defending, but for example is slightly worse at finishing, and you end up having a very offensive AMF, possibly a whole player who specializes on finishing, dribbling, or passing, but is rather weak in defending. Very similarly to what I have just mentioned, you should not only to look at the weaknesses and strengths of the players in just their stats, but also in their player models and their general physicality. A great mistake I see a lot of players doing is using two very tall and sluggish CBs. Yes, you might be prepared better against crosses and headers of the opponent, but you are completely unprepared for a battle against a very fast and agile striker. Instead, you should definitely balance your weaknesses by, for example, using a combination of a tall CB and a shorter, agile CB. An easy way how this could be done is, for example, using one traditional tall CB and one defensive fullback which you use at CB. The same goes for the striker duo I have mentioned before. While one striker is obviously the more agile one, this would probably mean that he is rather small, maybe someone closer to Kylian Mbappe, while the other striker could be a taller player who is better at headers, which combines well with his great height. This, for example, could be someone like Haaland. Combine it with the fact that you should also mix up your playstyles. These two guys work well together. For example, Kylian Mbappe could be a goal poacher, while Erling Haaland could be a fox in the box, which would ultimately mean that both of these guys make completely different runs and don't mess up each other. The last way how you should include asymmetry and diversity into your lineups and formations is by moving away from those predictable, static, generic formations. Most people run this sort of mirrored lineup or mirrored setups. Same fullbacks, same midfielders, same strikers. While balanced formations like this can be solid, they often become too predictable. I think it's such a shame since we have the option to design whatever formation we want for quite a while now, but still a lot of players do stick to the default symmetrical lineups and don't use their creativity. While you obviously shouldn't go completely insane while creating some crazy formation, you should most definitely move away from those symmetrical and default formations. Let's go back to the striker duo I have mentioned previously. A great example of how you could continue this idea is you obviously are using Haaland on the right side so that he can cut inside and finish with his left foot, and Kylian Mbappe on the left side. And to continue this idea, you could, for example, use some sort of winger or LMF on the left side who could have the playing style like a cross specialist to deliver far post crosses to Haaland, while on the right side, right beneath Haaland, you use, for example, an AMF with the whole player playstyle. Like this, you end up having an asymmetrical playstyle where you split the roles of your team, while on the left side, you have a winger who ends up going for crosses to the far post. You still end up having multiple game plans, how you could attack through the middle, through the right side, pass to Kylian Mbappe, and this will most definitely help confuse your opponent since you end up having multiple game plans and ways of scoring. That was it for this video, guys. I hope I helped you building a overall stronger squad and improve your team. If you enjoyed this video and found it useful, please make sure to like, possibly leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye bye.